Number 3. A. How many atoms are represented by the formula Ca HSO4 2? Well, do some simple calculations here. I'm going to take this subscript 2 and I'm going to move it through the rest of this polyatomic ion here, but I'm not going to bring it through and apply it to the calcium because these parentheses are telling me that this subscript 2 is being applied to everything within the parentheses but nothing outside the parentheses. So I'm going to apply the 2 to the oxygen, right? 2 times 4 is going to be 8 oxygens. I'm going to apply 2 to this subscript 1, so it's going to be 2 sulfurs. I'm going to apply this 2 to the subscript 1 on the hydrogen, so there are 2 hydrogens. But I'm going to leave this calcium alone, so there's only 1 calcium. So if I add up 1 calcium, 2 hydrogens, 2 sulfurs, 8 oxygens, that's 13 atoms. 13 atoms. B asks, how many moles of oxygen are there in 0.5 mole in a 0.5 mole sample of this compound? Well, I set up my crosshairs. The problem starts with 0.5 moles of the sample, which is 0.5 moles of the Ca HSO4 2. I have half a mole of that. And I set up a conversion factor that will allow me to cancel out my moles of the sample. Right? See those similar units get to cancel out. One's on the numerator, one's on the denominator. And my statement of equality that makes my conversion factor here is that for every 1 mole of the sample, I have 8 moles of oxygen atoms. Right? For every one of these, one of this entire thing, I have 8 oxygens. So for every 1 mole of the sample, I have 8 moles of oxygen. Now the crosshairs tell me to multiply these 2 values and then divide by the 1. Final answer is 4.0 for significant figures. 4.0 moles of oxygen atoms. Then C asks us to assign the oxidation number to sulfur in the HSO4 minus 1 anion. So first thing we want to point out here is this minus charge overall. This tells us that when we go to figure out what sulfur is, I don't want the overall item, the overall species, to be neutral. I don't want it to balance out completely. I want there to be a minus 1 overall. So let's start with oxygen. Oxygen is the easy one. It's most of the time it's a minus 2. There are 4 of them, right? So that gives me a total of minus 8. Minus 8. There's only 1 hydrogen that's going to give me a plus 1. So between the plus 1 and the minus 8, if I wanted to completely balance out, sulfur would be a plus 7. But I don't want this to balance out completely. I want it to get to be a minus 1 overall. So I'm going to stop 1 short of going to completely neutral. So instead of a plus 7, I'm going to have a plus 6. So that will leave me with a minus 1. So oxidation number on sulfur here is plus 6.